Hi, friends. I'm Carrie Jo, and this is Holy Chuckles Podcast. This is a space for honest faith, lived experiences, and shining a light in the places we've learned to hide. I'm not here to explain faith. I'm here to live it out loud. So take a breath and let's make room for what's real. Welcome back to Holy Chuckles Podcast. I'm really glad you're here. When I was a kid, we were always at church. I felt like every time the doors opened, we were there. We were there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, and any type of event or gathering that they had, we were there. And church is where I learned about God. But what I learned about God as a kid is not what I understand about God now. I was fearful of God. God to me was this mean, vengeful God, a God to be scared of, a God not to cross. And honestly, I didn't want to know that God. I had no desire to know that God. And I would try. I really would try to understand God. I remember when I was a kid in high school, I had a teacher, Mrs. Vandermoss, and she took time out of her weekend to meet with me and talk with me about the Bible. But I still just couldn't get it. I couldn't understand because the things that she was telling me was different than what I was learning at home or the church we went to. I never understood why people went and praised a God that would strike them down when they did something wrong, a God that would send them to hell because they didn't do what he said. I never understood that. I remember being in church and hearing hellfire and brimstone and being scared and not wanting to be there because I didn't like having to hear about this God that would literally smite you if you did something wrong. And maybe that's why I stayed away from God for so long, because the God that I'm cultivating a relationship with now is not that God. I feel in a way like I was lied to. Like I was told all these things that were untrue. The God I'm understanding now is loving, forgiving, gracious, wise, all-knowing, all-seeing, kind, encouraging. In fact, this lesson that I've learned in verse 4 and 5 of 1 Samuel chapter 4 has taught me how encouraging God is. And God has been encouraging me so much. I think how I grew up, they would probably use the word God is testing me. But I believe that God doesn't test us. God encourages us. God shows us how we're changing. God showed me how much I had changed. God gave me the encouragement that I needed to keep going in this healing journey. About 2 weeks ago, I had went to this restaurant, met a friend there, went to an early dinner. Like I'm talking senior citizen dinner. I'm going to dinner at 4:00. I don't want to be around a bunch of people. You know what? I probably even go to dinner earlier than most senior citizens. We go into this small little restaurant, and I've been there several times. I like this particular booth, so we go and sit there. A lady comes in after us. Whole restaurant is empty, but she's going to sit in the booth right behind us. She's facing the back of me. My friend and I, we get our food. This lady gets her food. I guess she doesn't want to eat alone, so she makes a phone call. This may offend some people. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying it to offend. I'm saying it because I don't understand it. I do not understand why people go into a restaurant and talk on their phone on speakerphone. It baffles me. I don't understand it. Not everybody wants to hear your phone calls. Not everyone wants to be a part of your conversations. I get it. You don't want to eat dinner alone. I'm cool with that. But then putting the phone up to your ear works. God made smart people who then made earphones, and we can put them in our ears. We can wear them over your head. There's several different kinds. But no, this lady decided she was going to talk on speakerphone the whole time she was eating. My friend and I couldn't even have a conversation because her phone was so loud, you couldn't even think to have a conversation. I didn't say anything. I didn't turn around and give her a dirty look. I was irritated the whole time and frustrated. I couldn't even enjoy the meal I was having with my friend because I was so irritated and at my capacity that I couldn't focus on anything but this conversation. We end our meal. I go home. I'm still a little irritated, but I finish out my night and I let it go. At the table, I did complain quite a bit. Again, my nervous system has been working overtime, and it just continued to work overtime at that restaurant. Just this past Monday, my friend calls me and says, "You want to meet up for dinner?" We go to the same restaurant, sit in the same booth. Restaurant is empty. There may be one other patron in there that's sitting across the restaurant from us. All kinds of tables and booths are open. We get our food. A gentleman walks in and he sits at the booth right behind me. Not only does he sit at that booth, but he slides in to where we are sitting back to back. He talks to the waitress. He gets his food. He doesn't want to eat alone. So he makes a phone call and he puts it on speaker. This man has a loud voice as it is, and he is talking to his friend. And it sounds like his friend is driving, so his friend on the other end is talking extremely loud. Now this man picks up on that and he's talking extremely loud. And my friend looks at me and I just shake my head. I can't believe it. Same restaurant, same booth, different person, different gender, set on the different side of the booth, but same scenario. One of the things he says is, "I hate this World Cup. It's so stupid. Everyone's just into soccer now." And I thought to myself, gosh, I was just talking to my friend Araj the other day about how great the World Cup is because how it's bringing everyone together. And then he starts talking about baseball. He's talking about who the best teams are, who should be MVP, who's got the better players. And his friend on the other end starts saying, I don't really like that player. He's all right. But what about so-and-so? And the guy sitting behind me says, "Oh man, you're an idiot. I can't believe that that's the player that you like. I can't believe that's the team you like. You're an idiot. Why don't you just stick to what you know, like water polo or golf?" And I'm kind of looking at my friend, she's looking at me, and we're in awe of this whole conversation. He gets so agitated and upset, and I'm starting to get agitated and upset because he's so mad at his friend. He's already cussed him out about how he's picking the wrong teams and he knows nothing. Literally cussed him out over that. I'm getting frustrated and my friend can see it. And then all of a sudden he gets so upset, he hangs up the phone on this guy. They were talking about some kind of stats and he got so mad that he hung up. I'm not going to lie. I was so excited he hung up. I thought, oh, yes, now we can finish our meal in peace. But no, 5 minutes later, he calls this guy back and he starts the conversation with, I had to get off the phone so I could look up the stats and call you back and tell you you were wrong. This guy is acting like he's coaching one of these teams, and he's so offended that his friend does not like his team that he had to look up stats and call his friend back and tell him he was wrong, and then started to get more agitated. He called his friend back, told him he was wrong, and then got agitated when his friend didn't agree with him. And then the conversation kept going. By this time, my nervous system had enough. I had had enough. This was the second time I wasn't going to be able to have a conversation with my friend that had met me for dinner. Last time I stayed quiet, this time I wasn't going to. I turned around and I said, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Is there any way you can talk a little quieter? I am super appreciative of all the baseball knowledge that I have gained in the time that you have been in this establishment, but I also would like to enjoy my meal with my friend. There's an entire restaurant that you could have sat at, but you chose to sit right here and have this very loud conversation." His response was, "I can sit anywhere I want and talk as loud as I want." My response, "Yes, sir, you can. But I also can ask for the same courtesy that I'm giving you." After I turned around and said that, I don't know if in that moment his friend hung up or he said, "I'm going to call you back," but it got quiet. And it was quiet for a good 10 minutes. That was 10 minutes of bliss in that restaurant. Could we have moved all of our plates, our drinks, everything else? Sure, we could have. But he could have also taken his call off speaker. Or he also could have used his library voice instead of his outside voice. I wasn't choosing to move. He wasn't choosing to use a quieter voice. I was kind and courteous when I asked. In my past, I would have been very sarcastic, or I would have said very unkind words, probably would have cussed him out, and then said more unkind words. But instead, I asked him if he could please use a quieter voice. After our 10 minutes of bliss, Mr. Baseball stood up, towered over my booth, and said, "You could have asked nicer. You could have said, 'You're being too loud.'" You know when you show a puppy something and the puppy kind of tilts its little head because it's not sure what's going on? That was me. I was that puppy. And I said, "Excuse me, sir? I did ask if you could be quieter." I was as kind as I could have been in the moments after listening to you curse, yell, and berate your friend. And as he's walking off, he's saying more things that he needed to get off his chest. I guess yelling at his friend wasn't enough. After all of that happened, my friend looked at me and said, "Wow, I am so proud of you." She said, "I saw the moment where I knew you had had enough. And I thought to myself, oh God, she's going to let him have it." Because this friend knew me before when I wouldn't have said, "Excuse me, sir," when I wouldn't have been as kind as I was. She went on to tell me, "You handled that so well. And I wasn't sure you were going to. I got nervous for a second, but you stayed calm and you just said what you needed to say." And I felt it. I knew it. I was so proud of myself. I felt myself stay grounded. I felt myself stay calm. And even though my nervous system was at capacity, I still stayed grounded. I didn't let him take me to a place I didn't want to go. I didn't allow his behavior to dictate mine. I made a request, and I made the request calmly. Whether he abided by it didn't matter. I was going to accept it either way. If he stayed on the phone and was loud with his friend, I wasn't going to say one more word about it. He chose to get off the phone and stay quiet. I was appreciative. Lord, I was so appreciative. But had he chose a different route, I was going to let that be. And that is new for me. And this is what I'm talking about. God shows you how much you have changed, not by giving you tests, but by allowing the same things to happen to you over and over so you can see, am I going to take the bait? Am I going to follow the same pattern? Or am I going to choose something different? How awesome is our God for showing us our growth? Not even us. Let me not even say us. Let me say me. Let me just talk about me. How awesome is my God for showing me how much I've changed. I know I changed. I thought I changed. I felt my change, but God showed it to me. God let me see it in real time. And there was nothing for me to do but be proud of myself, be proud of my growth. In a 2-week time period, I had grown that much. I had healed that much that I didn't follow that same pattern as before. I didn't follow several patterns as before. I didn't follow my pattern of staying silent like I did 2 weeks prior. I didn't follow my old Carrie Joe pattern of pushing someone to make them do what I needed them to do. I said what I needed and allowed him to make his own decision. And whatever he decided, I was going to roll with. I stayed calm and courteous and grounded through the whole situation. I didn't allow his behavior to dictate mine. One of the things that I learned that day is kindness doesn't mean silence. Kindness doesn't mean tolerating everything. Kindness doesn't mean letting someone dominate a shared space. That day, kindness was about how I spoke to him and how I replied to him. I've realized in my life I'm no longer confusing kindness for being passive. My old pattern would have been stay quiet, be irritated, replay the scene for hours afterwards. Some of my old patterns would have even been to explode and say things that I would have regretted. But God let me see how much I changed because I didn't do either of those. I noticed my nervous system, spoke respectfully, accepted his response, and did my best to enjoy the rest of my meal. That day wasn't a small victory for me. It was a huge victory for me because it wasn't about getting that man to lower his voice. It was about, can I stay aligned even when someone else chooses not to? And that day I received my answer. Yes, yes, I can. I have been feeling the pressure of this growth, feeling the intensity of this healing. And some days it is a lot. But what I've started to notice is God is showing me how I'm breaking my patterns. God is encouraging me to keep going by showing me how I've been breaking these patterns. And I'm sure that God has been showing me for a while, but I have just been so focused on growing, focused on healing, focused on being a better me, that I don't know that I have even seen them. But this was something I couldn't ignore. And I understood even more when the Israelites asked, why has God allowed us to be defeated by the Philistines? And then they didn't wait for an answer. They just sent people to go get the Ark of the Covenant. This whole time, I have been breaking patterns. I know I have, but I haven't even stopped to see how God has been encouraging me, to see how God has been showing me how much I've grown. All I've been doing is saying, next, please. Give me the next pattern. Let's break that. Give me the next pattern. Let's break that. Just like the Israelites in my past, I was focused on changing my circumstances. But God showed me with this incident at the restaurant, as irritated as I was, as frustrated as I was, God showed me that in my growth, in my healing, I have been changing my heart. I used to think I needed my circumstances to change before I could stay connected to God. But through God's encouragement, I realized that maybe staying connected to God is what allows me to stay centered, even when my circumstances don't change.